In here. Oh. Last prep. Can of this. To this. Most of y'all can see this, but when I make a batch, I did not always focused on some of the specifics. I mean, I want it to be accurate, I want it to shoot, I want it to be safe, first and foremost. But seating depth and, you know, getting a specific trim, especially on 300 Blackout, I'm not hunting with this. I'm shooting it at steel targets usually. I have the ability to get in there and get specific. I've got a nice trimmer and other things like that set up, but let's just call this batch one of those test batches. So, we make 15. I've got a set quantity dies, and I also use Elite Precision seating and crimping die. We're going to make some 300 Blackout, Subsonic, you can see I've got two RCBS. One's a rock chucker. The other one's a Junior 3. When I got this thing, it was super rusty. I think I let it sit in a bath of CLR for like 2 days straight. What's up this one? 45. So you can see what I'm getting after. Here's my setup. My 300 ACC. All I'm grabbing is my shell holders. So let's get into it. I like having two presses because it just makes some of this that much faster. If I was really smart, I'd have a turret press, or even better, probably a progressive setup, but I don't have that much, so we're going for it. So I start raising the ram. Again, this is my quantity seating die. I lower it till it touches the ram, lower the ram, take my Allen wrench, just give it a little tight, just so it sits in place. Some sizing die, excuse me. With the sizing die, I'm a little less worried about, again, being super specific. I want it to be accurate, but I'm not going to kill myself with it. So, with any rifle ammunition, I'm going to use some kind of lubricant. I've stuck with this Imperial sizing wax. It's easy to apply. I've been using this thing for over a year, and you can tell there's still a ton in there because you don't have to use a whole bunch. So, especially on a small batch, all I'm going to do is get a little thumb. Of course, it's hot as stuff here in Texas. So, this thing's already kind of melted. Just enough to get a little coat on there. And then, when I'm applying, I only use a little bit around the base. You don't need, in fact, you don't want a bunch of lubricant around the base neck, because that's when it gets all jacked up in your sizing die. So take each and every one. You notice I'm not having to reapply. You can feel it slick around in your fingers. You're good to go. So just enough to get the base. Again, I'm only doing 15 cartridges here with you. I did all my brass prep for these cases earlier, so they're cleaned. You can see they're already deprimed. I like to clean once if I can help it, so I will hand deprime. Okay, those are all waxed up. Put this stuff away. It's like a kitchen, clean as you go. You won't go wrong. So for depriming, I use one of these. I think it's great. I can take a batch of shells into the living room while I'm watching TV and just crank them out one at a time. You can do that. You'll notice there's still a decapping pin in the sizing die. I leave it in there to help form the inner cells of the shell itself, but otherwise it's really no other function in there. I don't have a cap in there to deprime. So, all right, get you a closer view. After it's run through there, I always take lubrication off. Let me show you how you might have some deformities prior. See a little flat spot up here? So once fired brass. I don't buy new brass. I'm sure someday I will. I'd rather buy factory ammo, shoot it, and then bring it back and do this to it. That way I get double the fun, twice as much money. Another good example of a shell I probably stepped on the range. If I'm going for speed, take these and just ram them through. Out here in my garage, in the lab. September in Texas is still a hot month. Luckily, the storm's about to blow through, and it is not quite as hot right now. So, almost done. Just sizing these. Every once in a while I get a shell that doesn't want to line up. I'll explain a little bit more too. Some of these are actually old 223 brass that have been cut down, necked down if you will. Sometimes that works out really well. Sometimes it doesn't. I think my head's in alignment. Let's see what's going on performance anxiety. Go figure. Okay. Almost done. Well, all you had to do was ask. 15. I'll just take my towel and I'll get the whole batch if we can do it. I'll show you here in a minute too, some extra prep work. You'll forgive, I have to run the fan. Like I said, it's hot here in Texas, so it's a little noisy. Not in my garage. You'll just have to bear with me. So, here's my cleaning kit. Did some brass prep yesterday. Put some of this away. Clear a little space. I have more. This is a universal trimmer kit. It also does some prep work. You see right now the heads that are in there are for swaging the primer pocket, getting that all cleaned out. And since I've already done that to these, I'm going to use this with some different attachments to do some different stuff here in a second. Get plugged up. Get a few different attachments here. Old ones out of there. Sometimes friction gets them a little stuck, so I gotta grab my wrench and get them out of there. Like I said, I'm not gonna trim these. I like to look to see what my overall case length might be, but when I got a bunch of mixed brass, I don't want to mess around with that. It would take way longer than it's worth, especially for plinking ammo. All I'm going to end up doing is shooting these things into a steel target out of my place. So get my attachment set, do a little brass prep. Now that these have gone through that process, you'll see the inside rim needs a little work. So I'm going to run these through here and get them cleaned up a bit. It's going to be a little loud, not too bad. Clean those pockets out. Deburr them, and then I run it through. Get those whiskers out. And we'll start to organize it. Chamfer, deburr, and clean. If I'm at the right angle, I usually grab 2 at a time if I'm going through a big batch. I'll do right hand, a couple seconds, move on to the next. Left hand, a couple seconds, move on to the next. Clean, chamfer, deburr all at once. If I can get it lined up. I've been told not to chamfer too much, meaning taking brass off the inside of the neck. So I usually only run it for a couple seconds. Just enough till I see it's shiny. I'll deburr as much as I need to, because I don't want anything sitting on the neck. And then I clean them out pretty good. Because I don't want any brass shavings inside the cartridge. as I'm putting some powder in there. So again, chamfer, deburr, clean it out. I find 300 Blackout is pretty easy to make, depending on what you're trying to do with it. In this case, we're working on a batch of Subsonic. And I'll show you the seeds here in a minute. But once I do this final bit of brass prep, we'll move on to priming these. This is my last one. We're only making 15 today. Okay. Voila. Like I said, it's like a kitchen, clean as you go. You'll end up with a big old mess at the end. Just crap lying around. I'm not this organized in regular life, so I gotta do it somewhere. There's 15, chamfered, deburred, cleaned out. We've already sized them. Coming back. So, this won't budge unless I loosen it back up. But when you're done with it, I find I never have to set my sizing dies like real precise because I'm going to run it to the bottom every time, but that's just me. I'd say some of this is preference, but that's the beauty of this. It really is. So I've got CCI small rifle primers. I got a second box because there's only, I think, yeah, about 7 in this one. Kind of see them in there. Kind of a mixed bag. I don't know how I got 2 that were already kind of open and used, but I keep a pretty good stock in my inventory. And while you'll see a bunch of RCBS stuff, kind of just went that way for the fact that I actually got these on Facebook Marketplace used. A nice lady I bought them from told me that she got a divorce and her husband didn't come by for a whole year. She said, well, he obviously didn't want to use them, so his loss is my gain. Poor bastard. RCBS uses this special priming system. We call it the universal primer. You'll notice, and I'll pull the camera out of there for a minute, I've got 2 of them, 1 in each of my loaders, and I'll tell you why. The cup size of these, there's 2. If you don't know much about reloading, I'm probably a poor teacher for you, but there are typically small and large primers, whether it's a pistol or a rifle cartridge that you're making. So changing out that cup I found to be really tedious. I'd rather have 2 ready to go. So when I'm doing anything that's a small primer cup, I just use this junior. So my small cup is ready to go, this guy. And then the large is over here with the rock chucker. When I'm making certain cartridges, it's really convenient because I can have 2 dies in at once, and the way the process sets up, crank up to do one, I come over here, I have this loaded up, have another die ready, I'll ram it through the die and prime it at the same time. So it's like doing 3 steps all at once. In the case of this 300 Blackout, I can't do that. because there's nothing for me to ram it up into right now in this process. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my 7 out of that, dump them in this. I need 8 more by my count. So I'll just put my finger over 2 of those, 10 in each row. If I can make a big old mess here, I'm just going to dump my hand. Now, some safety advice, when I'm about to do it, when I'm messing around with primers, I'm going to look like a dork for a minute. That's okay. I'd rather be a dork that has 2 eyeballs. These things are not very forgiving. It is the start of that explosion after all. So what you're seeing now, this particular little device, simple tray, has some grooves on it. And I'll give you an example. When these are flipped over, because they all have to be facing a certain direction, if you run this like this, they'll grab on and it'll automatically flip to normal. Oh, see? Get another example because I just ran them over. There we are. Back to the direction I need them now. Ironically enough, I have to flip this over because I actually need them facing the opposite direction. There we are. And then this tube is the small tube. I'll show you the large in comparison. You see the diameters are slightly different. Not by much, but easy to spot, so small tube it is. And what I do, it's got a little rubber cup end that works perfect for this next part of the process. I'll get you a better view here, guys. So, just put the cup down on top, gently ram it down in there. Pretty soon I will have 15 primers. Here I'm kind of slide back down in the tube. The last one usually gets stuck. I'll use something gentle, like a pencil. And again, I'm wearing safety glasses. I'll just give it a little bit of pressure until it falls down in there. So I'm not dealing with one kind of stuck in that end. All right, so don't pull this until it's down in its tube here, the universal primer. Now I can pull it and you'll hear the sound of them rolling into place. There they are. They're secure. Again, clean as you go. Always easier. Now, if I did my prep well enough, these will all seat pretty easily. But we're about to find out if my prep work was adequate. So take a case. And non-primed, we're about to go through the priming process. You just raise it up. It's not going into anything, you just need it to clear. When you pull the cup back, it seats. You can probably barely see it. I'm going to actually lower the camera angle. See if we can see a little better. It's probably still not sufficient, but inside the cup now is a primer with the open portion facing up. When I push it in and lower the rod, here I probably have a little bit of cleaning to do in that primer pocket, but it's still sat. Usually what I'll be able to do is visually inspect it. I like them to be flat. You definitely don't want them in too far, because then you might get some funny primer strikes when you go to shoot this thing. And you don't want it sticking out too much, because then you're worried about the case fitting. So usually if you just run your finger like that and everything feels smooth, you're good to go. And then for instruction purposes, I'm going to try to be a good steward, but there are still 14 primers in this tube that could all, at any moment, just blow right out this way. So I try not to get my head or face, really any body part, above this thing when I'm doing this. But again, another cup. That one was a little smoother. Primer in. everything's good. After a while, you actually get used to the feeling of it seating. You really don't have to do any visual inspection, but it's always still good, especially if you're just starting. Check it every time. All it takes is one of these things, right? You'll forgive, guys, if I'm not looking at the comments. I'm not trying to ignore anybody. But there's one thing I've learned about making this stuff, is you really want to pay attention to what you're doing. If I get a cup that feels just a little tight, I'll definitely inspect those a little closer just in case. Some common mistakes I did early on when I was still learning is every once in a while I'd get one in there somehow, some way, upside down. That's always fun. As you don't even bother trying to rescue any of this stuff anymore. I will definitely just toss that in the recycle pile. I haven't done it yet, but I do have a big old pile of brass I don't intend to use at some point. Whether it's a weird caliber I don't shoot, or something just got totally messed up about it. Maybe it was out at the range for a couple weeks and it was all funky. That's the last one. I plan to take that stuff to the junkyard and get some kind of money back for it. All right, that was it. Empty tube. Again, clean as you go. Put the back in there and put this back. So now we've got 15 primed, ready cases. Next is charging. By charging, I mean powder. I have been using Hodgdon CFE BLK. I don't have a ton of it in here, so I've got a second bottle ready to go, just in case. I mentioned keeping an eye on my inventory. I use an app called Bullet Maker, and I find it's great because based on the information you put inside, it will track your inventory, including your powder. So based on the estimated charge that you're putting into each case, it'll do the math for you. And as long as you're, buying a brand new bottle that is, in this case, 1 pound. I'm sure I say that right. But, yep, there it is right there. One net weight, 1 pound. It'll auto-calculate based on how many charges you give. So unless you spill a bunch of it or whatever, it will tell you when you're running out. So in this case, I know that I'm down to less than, or about to be less than 1 pound. I probably won't even need this much, but I always like to have it kind of in the hopper and ready to go. Especially if I'm only making 15, it's not a big deal. Leave that up so someone wants to see it. Shameless plug for them. I'm still in the phase where I'm probably trying to save money by doing this. That is one of the most common misconceptions about reloading. I think I totally agree with what's been told to me, which is you're not going to save money because you're going to make probably a lot of ammo. You're going to shoot more. I mean, there's worse things in the world, right? I enjoy shooting, so why not be able to shoot more and for a little bit less? But, I sunk a few $100s into getting these used, beyond that, you start to add up the things like your dies. Obviously, all the components that go into it cost money too. And I'll show you at the end if I can. I don't have it to where I can screen share with you. And I'm using the phone, which is where the app is, but Bullet Maker app will tell me down to the penny or fraction of a penny how much each of these shells actually cost me, which is helpful to know. And one of the few shells I really save a lot on is 300 Blackout, because they're really expensive to buy. Moderately expensive, but especially subsonic, it can get ridiculous. So I just have the cheap little, I say cheap, affordable, excuse me. RCBS has these on their website. I don't think they actually make it. I think they just like that it's green, like the rest of their stuff. So I try and get it flat. I will use the tear. And it comes with its own little 50 gram per grain weight, excuse me. Well, 771.4 grains, excuse me. It is 50 grams. On the nose, it's a calibration. This weighs 124.3 grains, and then I'll use the tear button so that this goes back down to 0. It's gonna be hard to see without it just going haywire, but ultimately what it allows me to do is find out exactly how much powder is in this cup. And what I'm going for is not that much, I'll tell you that. I use a combination. I'll use this Lyman book with all this load data. I'm not going to show it to you because you should go support these folks, but when I get my load